Hello, I am back, I guess. Gonna go ahead and keep working on these guys. I'm not exactly sure what else I'm really gonna do to them. I think, for the most part, nice and black, I suppose I'm gonna work on some details. And one of the first details I'm gonna work on now that I look at it is going to be cleaning up the brown a little bit. The brown is definitely splotchy in some spots and not quite as nice as I would like it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little shot in the arm. So let's get to work on that. Oh no, I almost out of this? Yeah, that's enough. Okay, fantastic. I've got a lot of little dudes to work on, a lot of little bits and bobs. And something else that I think I mentioned previously is I found a bunch of old Citadel base brushes. So I'm going to start using those. I can go away. And I'm going to see what they can bring me in terms of ability. I'm so far fairly impressed with them. I mean, not with the price on them, of course, but just in general, they hold quite a bit of paint. They hold quite a bit of water. And they managed to maintain a fairly nice point to them, a nice tip, despite clearly, you know, being of a synthetic Kolinsky mixture. But that's fine. They do what they're supposed to do. And so far I can say that since it's... Hey, Minoidi, how's it going? Good to see you. I am just working on these guys, cleaning up some bits and bobs that I was really fast and loose with, seeing what I can do to bring out some more before I hit them all with a wash. Because that's kind of the next step for me, is once I run out of details to hit, to kind of drown them in the dark wash that I use, and then hit them again with some highlight. Oh, you're getting ready to do some painting yourself? Very cool, very cool. What kind of stuff are you painting? What fun things are going to get some paint slapped on them today for you? This is one of my favorite parts of the hobby, is seeing other people working on stuff. Okay. Metallic watercolors. Oh my goodness. Oh, so you're painting. That is neat. I'm curious to how that would play out. I've never messed with watercolors. Admittedly, I'm too scared. My wife has messed with watercolors and says that it's something she doesn't particularly like working with because they are DV So, kudos to you for making that your weapon of choice today. I keep forgetting that when I first started this channel, I was definitely not only with miniature painting, I was just kind of in the art section. And so I do have some followers that don't know me, or that don't do the war hands like I do. And that's perfectly fine. I'm getting to the point, especially with these models, where I'm like, I feel like I've done enough. I want to move on and give these guys a nice wash to really bring everything together. Because right now, it is very much a case of like, there's bits and bobs that I probably could really clamp down on and try and make look really clean, really tight. But these are all things that are going to be well discussed or well covered by a good dark wash. Yeah, that's really cool that you're working with some metallics. I am not talented enough nor adventurous enough to start messing with that stuff. This is my only real art form right here, is doing this miniature painting. And even then, it's something I'm not going to claim a whole lot of. Did I forget to paint that black? I forgot to paint that black. I'm not going to claim a whole lot of artistic. I do a lot of different painting. I want to try minis at some point. I really like my dad's CNC wood carvings. That's really cool. That's neat. That would be super fun. Mini painting is its own weird little animal. This is the only type of painting I do. I've never been very artistic in any other way. So I'm very tickled that this was the thing that I glommed onto. But I guess it kind of makes sense. It feeds into that nerd thing. Hey, Red. Thank you. Yeah, I have done quite a bit. It's getting to that point where I'm doing detail work, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because the customer said specifically he wanted it a B grade. So nothing too profound. Let's see, what am I looking at? Okay, yeah. And so I'm just trying to do some last minute details before I actively hit it with a heavy wash, which is the next step. Which I should be able to get done before dinner time. I will say one thing is that he requested that I magnetize his minis. Like, I magnetized the weapons on this guy. And I was able to remove the turrets on one arm. That wouldn't call me masturbating. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's always good to have a wide swath of skills. That's kind of where I was for a long time. That's where I am with a lot of my hobbies. I get super interested in them for about a year or two. Spend a decent chunk of money on them as I kind of really enjoy the that journey of discovery. And then kind of realize I've hit a point of saturation where I'm like, okay, that's enough. I've seen what I need to see. And then I move on to something else. But yeah, he's getting work on him. Now, what I'm scared to do, what I need to do, is I need to separate the arms on this guy. Because, like I said, the client wants them to be magnetized. And so, should be able to give you money on the 6 for 3 models and 2 squads. Oh, okay. I'll get to it then with the buying and painting of them. Once, at the end of the month, I get paid again, and I'll have some more spending money. And when that happens, that's when I'll go ahead and get started on that. Before then, I'm a little tight right now because of the holidays, but that'll work out really nicely. Okay. Let's go ahead and get some of this black back on here that I was using. That way it can maintain consistency. Let's hit some more details because I do not feel like I've hit enough details on this weapon to claim that it is quote-unquote done. But after I finish that, I'm going to have to work on separating it from the arm. Which, the more I think about it, the more I realize oh my goodness, this is a name. Mr. Lenonic? Mr. Lenonic? I'm probably slaughtering that. I apologize. Yes, this is not a knight. This is a squire. This is a knight armiger, I guess. And so I've heard it jokingly called a squire. These are the smallest dudes they've got, and I'm doing this for a commission piece. The person specifically requested basically a blocking, a shading, and a highlighting, which I can do pretty quickly. Awesome, I got it. Be prepared for me to slaughter it 8 more times because I'm really bad with remembering how to pronounce names. But yep, I'm just trying to hit this thing with some last minute detail work before I hit it with a huge wash and then give it time to dry. I've got another one too that I've got to do this with. Imperium fan, fantastic. Spend money for the STL on the 6th so it doesn't come out of your pocket. Thank you, appreciate it. I can definitely wait till then. By then I should also have some more resin too, so that'll be real nice. But yes, this is not for me. This is a commission piece that I'm doing. I don't play. Hey Pilky, good to see you. If mine ever gives you trouble, just shorten it to Menno. Fair enough. I appreciate it. Menoidi? Menwati? Menwati? Is it the French? Because I took French for 5 years before I promptly forgot it all. But the pronunciation is still kind of there. But yeah, Pilky, how's it going? I'm sorry I wasn't able to catch your stream. The day kind of got away from me and my wife, but that's okay. I hope you had a good one for your 1-year anniversary. I bet it was kind of neat thinking about how much things have changed since then. Hey Benry, meant to ask you earlier, did you follow any guides or something when you started painting and assembling minis? Yes. When I first started, I had a friend who was really into the hobby. Just send me an email on the price of the 3 STLs and I'll get it sorted. Will do. I will do my best to remember. But yeah, Tobacco, sorry, I'm still dealing with the blood thinners. They're still making it hard for me to brain. When I first started doing this, I had a friend who was really into painting minis, and he was into D&D and all that stuff. And so he gave me pointers on what I should do, which was, kind of prime your mini first, make sure that you have a layer of paint to attach, a primer paint to attach it all to, and then work from the inside out. So the stuff that was deepest in depth, the stuff that was going to be hardest to hit all that first, and then work on the other things. So like little greeblies, little things that are under the arm, etc. And that was good enough for those minis. But Games Workshop also had their own thing, which was start with a base coat, work on the details, and then shade, and then highlight. So there's a lot of little ways that you can paint these. And most of the things I see, like Games Workshop has what's called the what the heck is it called? The Heavy Metal style, which is their painting crew, the Heavy Metal painters. And they paint all theirs with a mid-tone. They start with like the middle color that they're looking for, and then they brush down to a dark tone with like a wash, or just in their case with their exceptional painting skills, and then they work back up to highlights. The general way that I paint, which is not necessarily the way I'd recommend for everyone, is I start dark and then I paint my way back up to light. There are a lot of people that do that, and that's their own prerogative. There's a lot of painting guides on YouTube, and no problem. See you in a minute. There are a lot of painting guides on YouTube, and a lot of them are incredibly helpful. And it's actually a big reason why I was kind of reticent to start doing this, is, they're all incredibly talented, and most of them are award-winning painters, and it's just like, what do I have to offer that they're already not putting out, you know what I mean? So I was kind of leery about starting doing this until listening to both my wife and listening to Doig Swift, and just how encouraging they've been about just starting your own thing, and even if you don't be a huge success, enjoy it, right? But anyway, they typically will tell you, especially if you're in like the beginner phase, start with your mid-tone, start with whatever color you want, and then wash it down with a wash, which will make everything darker in the shaded spots, and then hit it with a contrast, like a higher color. That's it. And yeah, the big thing you're going to want if you want to get into like Warhammer painting is you're going to need money. Warhammer's expensive, like stupid expensive. The first hit's always free, and they always give you like the intro stuff at a good deal. But once you really start kind of finding your identity and being like, oh yeah, I want to play Imperial Guard, or I want to play Imperium, or I want to do this, that, and the other, and then you start having to buy the stuff on your own, it hurts. The paints are not super expensive. They're about $8 a pot. 8 American dollars. I'm not sure what that translates over to. Depending on who you go to, Army Painter is really well known. They're very affordable. They're like $4 a pot. You can buy bundles that are a little cheaper. Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, the paint's not super expensive. And the beautiful part is you don't need to have, Army Painter. Army Painter they're a good starter paint, but they're also going to give you a little bit of trouble depending on the paint. I've had some Army Painter paints that are fine, and they're good, and they do what they're supposed to do. And I've had others that are just too thin and won't mix and just fight me every step of the way. Vallejo is a brand that I really like. It's about $6 to $8 of dropper, but their paints are universally good. So like Vallejo Model Color is one that you can use, or let me find another one. Vallejo Game Color is a lot more vibrant and rich typically, but I really like Vallejo. The paint is expensive per milliliter compared to basic acrylics, but usually they're better formulated for mini painting. That is true, Pilkey. They tend to be more dense, pigment-wise, and so they work a whole lot better than, say, a good starter set. They have those. Game stores will sell those. And in general, if you get one that's, 8 to 16 paints, you'll be set. Because especially at the early stages, you'll just start mixing paints to get the colors you want, and then you'll be fine and good to go and all that stuff. It's thank you, Pilkey. That's really, really good advice. I think the Vallejo Fantasy Starter set is really good personally, but I'm also an unrepentant Vallejo stan because every Vallejo paint I've gotten has been absolutely phenomenal. I will say though, the local game store that I go to is considering getting either Scale 75 or Two Thin Coats or AK Interactive. And I'll be honest, if he does that, friendship with Vallejo over friendship with whatever brand he supplies, because that's fair. Thinking of doing your current minis, and if you run out, get a good 3D printer. I will let you know, I've mentioned it before, 3D printing is its own hobby. You're going to be committing a lot of time to figuring that mess out, like I did. But yeah, if you ever need any help with that, there's a vibrant community there that are really happy to tell you what any guidance that you might want. I apologize if I sound like I'm stumbling really bad. It's because I am. I'm still not used to these thinners, these blood thinners in my brain. Okay. Next thing, I think. I probably ought to do the other guy before what do I have to do for him? He looks... I probably ought to finish that part. Games Workshop, Space Marines paint set. Yeah, that's a good place to start. Citadel paints are ridiculously solid. There aren't... The only bad Citadel paints are like their whites. Every other Citadel paint is really, really good. The only problem is they come in those ridiculous paint pots that just make you waste incredible amounts of it. But if you can deal with that, then you'll be fine. Their paints are a rock solid place to start. And I strongly recommend, if you can, skipping Army Painter altogether and go straight to Citadel. Just because the paint quality is such a huge jump between the two. And I feel bad saying that because I really empathy for anyone on blood thinners. The first weeks on my arrhythmia meds were rough. Yeah, I've never been on this kind of stuff before. I've always been relatively healthy. And I went to a doctor's appointment last week, and it was just because I've had allergy issues, like sinus issues. And they went, well, it's also been a year since your last physical, so how about we do that? And I said, okay. And then they told me, oh yeah, your blood's real thick. You got terrible cholesterol levels and whatnot, so we're gonna put you on some blood thinners, and then you're gonna hopefully work on losing some weight and eating better. And so I've had those health issues, but the blood thinners are what's getting me. Is just that it's making me loopy and kind of that unable to think clearly. I will say, Tobacco Fee, do not stress over getting Games Workshop brushes. Games Workshop brushes are pretty good, but they're not great, and they are severely overpriced. They purport to be a synthetic mix between Sable and, which is a good hair. I got that spicy cough. It was one of the... It's not ever... Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm so sorry. I managed to get that as well, but I was already double vaxxed at that point, so I was doing pretty okay. I had one really, really bad day, and then everything just kind of fell into place. So I got real lucky. Unfortunately, I also got my wife sick, and then she had to deal with it, so that was not fun. Okay, a primer is a general term for paint that is like the first layer that you put on, and it literally primes the mini for painting. It's supposed to make it so that other paint sticks to the mini better, right? Hence the name primer. A wash is a very thinned down paint acrylic that tries to actively like seek out the low spots in the on the model, and then it double vax was high risk. I was curious about your hybrid Sable brushes. Is there a brand you like? I'm currently really big on Winsor and Newton because their Series 7 brushes are just purported to be like the gold standard, but apparently their like master brush makers all kind of noped out of there and retired, and their current crop of craftsmen are not as good, and so there have been a lot of inconsistencies with the Winsor and Newton brand, and I don't know if that's what I'm seeing or if I'm just treating my brushes like crap, but I don't have super fine points on on them anymore, and that's really unfortunate when you're doing precision work, right? I've heard Raphael 8404 series is really good. I've heard that the Da Vinci series is really good, but I've used them myself and they were terrible. I think that had more to do with the fact that I got them off of Amazon and treated them like garbage. I honestly recently, the ones I have been using have been these terrible budget liner brushes. And they work fine. Synthetic brushes are fine. You're not going to get the same degree of like control and detail work that you can get with a good Kolinsky Sable brush, but I also feel like brush fixer, I have a brush soap that I use, and in general it does a pretty good job of cleaning out my brushes, but my Kolinsky Sable ones feel like they're far too gone. Look at the Speedball brush mixer. You dip your brushes in it and it sets hard, setting your brushes back into place. I think that might work, but my biggest issue is that I can't get a super fine tip anymore. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I'd be able to show it well on the camera because of the focus issues. But here, give me a second. Let me put this down, and I feel like I'm really struggling today verbally. Those guys over there. Whoops, there went that. So, no, I want my number one. There's my number one. So, like, for example, there you go. So like this is what my my number one brush looks like right now. And this is what a number one looks like when you first get it. So it also actually looks like it's lost some bristles, I suppose, which is really unfortunate. But obviously I can't get to that kind of point anymore. That really explains a lot. Maybe it's because it's just lost some of the finer brushes through me being abusive as sin. Yeah, it kind of did, didn't it? But yeah, I mean, you can see like that's almost a needle point. I feel like I could inject a syringe with that thing. But yeah, I think what might have happened is just that the longer bristles got pulled out. That's probably it. Just me being overly aggressive with the bristles and not being gentle enough. That explains a lot. Well, if I get anything out of today's session of painting, it's that I learned that I just need to calm the hell down washing my washing my paint, my brushes. I've had that one for about a year, over a year, and it just looks like that now. But yeah, I guess I just need to calm down. It's all good. Get some more of these guys. And it's funny because my buddy Soft Servo, I got 3 of those brushes, and for Christmas a couple years ago. And since Soft Servo is the one who got me into mini painting, and he's never owned a Kolinsky Sable brush, brush soap with a beige tint. It's got a very fine grit to it. Seemed to be gentle and natural bristles. I did not know that, and that explains a lot. Because yes, I am using the Masters brush soap, and that makes sense that it has a fine grit. So I guess I need to calm down. Okay, that explains so much. I learned something today. But I gave him one, and his still has like a needle point apparently, and he's still in love with the darn thing. Are primers sprayed? They can be. Primers can be sprayed. Generally, they're better if they are. You can buy cheap spray primer from whatever grocery store, convenience store you have. I buy mine from Walmart. I used to, when I was using, before I bought an airbrush, right? So, give me a second. Let me finish hitting this thing. So, yeah, primers are usually sprayed. They can be painted. Like, here, I'll be right back. That is part. Like that. You can use something like Krylon, and whatnot. I learned from manicurists, they use Kolinsky for acrylic nail painting, that they have to be babied. I use spray cans from GW. Halford's car primer is apparently the best for the budget. Thank you for the knowledge, Minwati. I appreciate it, Menno. I really do. I'm gonna have to like hop off the camera. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'll just call when it's dinner time. Yeah. What I use now, because I'm way too deep in this hobby, is I have an airbrush that I have also treated like crap. This is a Badger 105 Patriot, which is the baseline that most people get. And you get some thinner, you get some Vallejo surface primer, and then you're good to go. Because it usually goes on incredibly thin and allows you to retain all the details, like with this lovely model that I'm going to paint at some point. But yeah, it's really good for what it is. What am I doing? I'm so brain dead right now, and I feel so bad because I feel like I should be more entertaining, or at least trying to do something, but I can't focus. I know, right? That is a Gene Stealer Magos. That's the wrong color. She's cool, and I love her because she's got like that really awesome power stride. She got a creepy alien head, which is also fine. But she's a cool mini. I really kind of want to start collecting Gene Stealer cults, but I got like 3 armies that I want to start collecting. So I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm trying. Actually, one moment. I think I might have like. There it is. Cool. So no, this is what she's supposed to look like, and I'm not going to paint her quite like that. But I'm gonna do what I can, and I'm excited to, because I think she's a neat looking mini. Now that I'm getting better at detail painting, I'm enjoying detail painting. Okay, that's a base green, which I think I can replicate not really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the base green. It's gonna be a little bit off, which is fine. And then I'm gonna paint the brown around it, and that should work okay. Used to be able to get a Series 7 size 0 for like 13 to 15 pounds, now it's 26. Ugh, yeah, the brushes have gotten a lot more expensive. I feel kind of blessed in that because of Amazon, I've been able to find Series 7 brushes for not quite that expense. The most I've spent on a Series 7 was $23, and that was the size 00 that I have. So, yeah, they're not all terribly expensive, but they're expensive. The one that I'm excited about, that I want to try eventually, is the Raphael, because I keep hearing that they're better, and they've maintained a higher degree of quality. Though, after talking with chat today, I think I just need to stop being so, like, rough with how I clean my brushes, because I will be honest with you, I am not gentle when I run my brushes through the brush cleaner. And based on what you've just told me, that is a really good reason for why my brushes have diminished so much, because I am, like, friggin' dragging them through the soap. Because I figured if I really want to get deep into the ferrule, where I'm probably got a whole bunch of paint particles stored, then I need to be aggressive with my brushing, or with my washing. And it turns out I'm wrong. So good knowledge. Hopefully good knowledge for everyone else. Learn from my mistakes. Speaking of, have any of you guys watched the new Critical Role, Legend of Vox Machina, on the Amazon Prime? Dry your brushes down or horizontal? Yes, I do. I have a paint puck, which is this wonderful device. I watched the first 3 episodes with the wife yesterday, and it was very good. And, not to spoil too much, but a fan favorite NPC makes an appearance because they head to Vasselheim in the 2nd episode. And so it was very fun seeing Victor in the show. Yeah, paint pucks are genius. I got one for Christmas, and I couldn't be happier. What you call it? Lila Mev, the mini painting witch, was the first one to really start espousing them. And I remember seeing some of the stuff she had, thinking, "Wow, that seems a bit extra." Hey, Remnant, good to see you. I'm dealing with some post-medication like deliriousness, brain fog, but I'm trying my best to paint this mini and answer questions from chat and hold somewhat of a coaching conversation. But I definitely bought that paint puck, and it's been one of my favorite. I didn't buy it; I got it for Christmas. I got some cool stuff for Christmas. I got a paint shaker, I got a paint puck, I got a wow stick. I got some really neat stuff, and that makes me incredibly happy, because all of it has just been wonderfully communicated. Issue with Clint's is the price is... Yeah, that is true. I have seen them trying to do other things too, like to stay away from, or to make alternatives for Kalinsky. And I don't know if they're any good, but that definitely makes sense. I didn't even think of the fact that they were based in Russia as being a reason why their stuff was getting increasingly expensive. Man, I hate politics. I really hate politics. I taught government for a year, and then I taught journalism for many years. But man, politics, huh? Angie. Big Angie. All I learned was that people in power make some really mean-spirited decisions, and I wish that they didn't. And something that I've learned as I've gotten older is that people in power are basically just a bunch of rich a-holes. And while they may have a better technical understanding of the political world, I ran out of silver-tip jasmine dragon tea. Ah! That's awful. Can't order tea from the UK anymore due to Brexit and customs. Yeah, exactly. Like that. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into the politics because, you know, not really what the channel's about. I will let you know, I'm for an American, I'm fairly leftist. I identify as socialist and whatnot. So if that is a problem, then I'm sorry, but I just human compassion, please. Just human compassion. I just want people to be happy. You're strict chamomile. That sounds like a good idea. I don't drink tea anymore. I used to drink a lot of green tea until the nature of it just was too much. And I know, shock and anger. Someone wants others to be happy. But I started drinking coffee once I realized coffee with creamer is really tasty. And I tried to get off of coffee and creamer because I realized it was a lot of caffeine and the creamer wasn't particularly good for me. So I went back to tea for like a month or two, and it just wasn't doing it. And I went back to coffee again. Are we 1940 socialist or Denmark quote-unquote socialist? Closer to like Denmark socialist, I guess. I don't actually know what Denmark socialist is. Just the idea that government intervention, when appropriately applied with the right mindset, is better off than pure free market. Because I'm kind of living in a capitalist hellscape over here. But I tried to go back to coffee, and when I did, I was driving to work, and all of a sudden my heart started racing and my blood started rushing, and I felt like I could rip the steering wheel out of the column and floor it and just ascend to the heavens. Yeah, closer to that. I mean, ideally, you know, no lords, no masters, no ownership. Everything is communal. That'd be great, but that's also incredibly unrealistic in the society that we live in, right? It's not something that's very feasible. So socio-democratic is about as far as we're gonna go. And I mean, to be completely honest, I think yeah, that's about right. I think I've come pretty far. I was not a card-carrying Republican, but I was definitely a very conservative individual. Some 20 years ago. because I was raised by a very conservative father. And then I realized that a lot of his ideas were very privileged, and I stopped listening. But then again, he started working with a guy who was basically a socialist, and that guy completely changed his mind on a lot of things. I just got a bing bong. What did I get a bing bong for? I have no clue what that was, but that's okay. Okay, did I do the brown on here? Yeah, so I don't know. I am of the opinion that we should be good to people. All people. Unless they're people who want to destroy and kill people. Then we should not be good to them. They deserve a boot to the head. I mean, that's fair. No one's saying that you can't. Okay. Let's see. The person wanted the smokestacks, the heat sinks on the smokestacks to be brown, so I'm doing my best here. Thankfully, most of this is going to be well covered up by the wash, which is going to bring back a lot of the contrast. Yes, this is a commission. I don't own. I own a pair of armigers that I 3D printed because my wife bought me a Knight Valiant for Christmas a couple years ago, but I personally do not own any Knight armigers. I put my feelers out there for commission painting a few weeks ago and immediately got a couple hits. And the first one was for some Knight armigers that he wanted painted to what I called a B grade, which was Tabletop Plus. Tiny details. It's one thing, yeah. It's a struggle. It's a real struggle. What really helps though is the really tiny paintbrushes. And I think that's been my favorite thing about learning this stuff is that it all just seems so incredibly impossible when I got started. And as I've done it more and more and more and watch people, you pick up on little things that they do. And like right now, I'm being very sloppy. I normally wouldn't be painting like this, but like I said, I'm hitting gross details, what I consider gross details, and this is all going to be hit with a very heavy dark wash soon, and so all of the bits that are kind of overlapping, that's going to get covered up. No one's going to see that. The thing that I've learned that I'm starting to love in terms of painting is working on faces. Because the faces, yeah, for a few feet it looks fantastic, exactly. And that's what this person wants. He wants Tabletop Plus, so Tabletop Ready is three paints and a terrain, or a based model, right? So 3 different paint colors and a base model. In my case, Tabletop Plus is obviously more paints. I'm going to hit it with a wash, I'm going to hit it with a dry brush and some highlights, and that'll be it. But this is not the degree, the normal detail level I paint at. Let me find it. Like, because I get time to show off. I'm painting these guys entirely in non-metallic metal gold as a way to practice non-metallic metal gold, and I'm not quite there yet, but I'm trying. But you can see there's a whole lot more detail, there's a whole lot more depth to the paint job I'm doing on these guys versus the paint job that I'm doing on this one guy. And like I did I did a piece for a competition, and same kind of thing. You can see there's a lot more detail going on in here, there's a lot more work going on. I'm really proud of this model. I really like this model. But yeah, that's kind of the point, is that's become my standard, and so going back and painting at this standard is a little bit jarring for me, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I've just got to figure out what else needs to be painted. I did not do this as systematically as I should have. I think I should do some metals on here, so I'm gonna go ahead. I don't need much of those. Get some metallics. We're gonna get me some metallics. We're gonna do a silver teal tan. But yeah, the new season, I will say, the new season of Vox Machina, it starts off with a bang, because it starts off where the old season ended. The first episode, though, it had so much going on and that it felt really weird watching bits and bobs because it looked like the animation was getting choppier and taking dips in quality, and that makes me feel bad because I don't want to be thinking about those things when I'm watching something that, 10 years ago would have been an absolute pipe dream fantasy to get made. But it was that distracting. But then the entire thing picks up. It's the fact that, the whole team are in charge of creative and are there to help coordinate and collaborate and whatnot definitely pulls up. I wasn't the only one. Yeah, it does. It definitely is not as smooth as the first season, but I don't think it detracts actively enough from the rest of the show to really bother me, I guess. It's just enough to be like, oh yeah, there's definitely a drop. But again, nothing terrible. No, I think... Okay, I might have made a mistake here. Because that part needs to be this color, specifically because it's going to... Oh, I know, I can paint that black. That's what I'll do. I'll paint it black and then I'll hit it with a dry brush. Yeah, it was still phenomenal. It was really cool seeing a lot of these characters brought to life. That was my take on it. I did not need all that metallic paint. That can go embrace oblivion. They definitely married together a whole bunch of disparate storylines to make season 3 happen. And it's really, or season 2 happen, and it's really noticeable. And if you've listened to their Critical Role stream of Campaign 1, it has a whole bunch of fun little Easter eggs, and seeing how they kind of reconciled those bits and bobs was incredibly enjoyable. Because if you remember, they don't immediately go to deal with the Briarwoods and Brimscythe at the very beginning of their campaign, so they missed out on a lot of things that they had originally done in between, like finding Lady Kima and meeting the Briarwoods, right? And so they had to come up with new ways to transition back to some of those places. And I think they did an absolutely phenomenal job with what they had. There was one moment in one episode in particular. Well, not one moment, actually. I take that back. There's one arc in particular that I was not fond of because I felt that it was really clumsily done. And it required a little bit of suspension of disbelief from within the show's own setup. Not the this is different from the web series, so I don't like it. It was that they established something in a single episode. I don't want to spoil anything because people haven't watched it, but it's in the 3rd episode, and it's the build up to the end of the episode, the build up to that climactic moment, and they establish a relationship dynamic between two of the characters to make the final scene have more impact. And that was not a character dynamic that existed before that episode. At least I don't think so. And they interspersed it with flashback scenes to explain where that was coming from. And it just seems silly to me that, of course, the climactic flashback moment happens right before the climactic moment. But it's like, the person who's remembering that, it's like, no, you remember this entire thing. So why are you drastically altering your behavior in a negative way up until the moment when it matters? And again, it established a relationship dynamic to fit the flashbacks and to fit that specific scene that didn't exist prior to that. At least I didn't see it. It was extremely noticeable in that specific episode. But before then, it wasn't there. And it was established to create the dramatic tension, but also to inform why one of the characters were behaving the way they were in that moment, before they kind of reconcile right before the big climax thing happens. I hope that I'm being vague enough that people don't know what I'm talking about unless they've seen the episode. If not, I apologize for spoiling things. But that was my one big complaint. The episode slapped. The show is really good so far. I'm exceedingly overjoyed Now, Keyleth was well written. I like Keyleth. I think Keyleth is adorable. I think that they did a good job bringing some of the aspects of Marisha's character that didn't play as well in the campaign. And she definitely comes off as more of that overwhelmed, trying to do the right thing character that I think she was trying to go for when the show was the D&D. But I'm also very reticent to talk bad about Marisha. Like, I don't want to, because I didn't realize exactly how many other things she was doing to make that show happen. You know what I mean? The way that Critical Role was set up, I really want to see the first game. It's just long. It is. The only time I could really listen to the campaign was when I was on long road trips, or when I was working independently, and I had time to just put my head down and listen while I'm working, right? In the D&D campaigns, Keyleth is kind of picked on a lot, and Marisha Ray is kind of picked on a lot by certain detractors of the show, and it's entirely because of all of the characters, of all of the players, Marisha is the one that fumbles the most. Like, she forgets her spells, she acts in ways that are kind of weird and not necessarily inconsistent, but like, of all the characters, she's the only one that I remember wincing at when she would do certain things and perform her character in certain ways. And I remember there being a fairly big backlash just because it always felt like she needed to insert herself into scenes, or she would forget her spells, and that would waste a lot of time. Like, there's one bit when they're fighting some worms, WURMS, and she casts, like, I don't even know what it's, cloud form on everyone? Something like that. And her idea is, okay, let's get them off of the ground so that the worms can't attack them. And she didn't read her spell all the way through, and didn't realize that it also gives them disadvantage on attacking the worms, right? And she's like, okay, well, I'll turn them back. And Matt says, you got to read your spell. You can't. It's going to take 10 minutes of summoning, and we're in battle, so that's 60 turns. And so everyone's just kind of like, well, crap, what do we do now? And it was just a really clumsy, awkward moment. And that's just one I remember off the top of my head. But it's also like, Marisha is the executive producer of the show. She is the literal nerve center of that entire show. And she also is a meticulous note taker that is consistently being the person that they turn to when they don't remember something. So, you know, giving her grief because she fumbles a little bit in the mechanical part of the game or whatever, that just seems really unwarranted and unfair, given how much more work she does than anyone else on making sure that that thing is a show. But that's like my opinion, man. Ahead. I'm just trying to get as much like color interest as I can on some of these things. Yeah, some people are just kind of jerks. And admittedly, I wasn't drawing from the best place when I was looking at these complaints. I mean, it's a hate-filled group to begin with that I grew up going to, and so I continue to go against my better judgment. But beyond that, it's just like, calm down. Why reserve so much hate for a show, or for people on a show that you already don't really like? It's like, just stop giving it any thought. Find other thing, because everyone else more or less got to sit down after studying some of the stuff. Marisha was running the business after founding it, and that takes so much time and energy. Exactly! It's like, people just severely underestimate how much work goes into making that show. And I'm not gonna say that I know either, but like, I've done very, very small scale like filming and recording. I've mentioned this before on stream, but I'm a high school teacher, and during the pandemic I teach English, and I with my friend Soft Servo, who pops in every now and then, teach 9th grade English to a co-taught class, which is, most of the students need a lot more support because they're already behind on reading and whatnot. And even Laura does the work and kind of clock out for a few hours. Yeah, exactly. But we realized that we couldn't just read these stories with these kids online because they would clock out. They would not care. They wouldn't pay attention to someone reading, classic Greek literature to them during the pandemic. So, what Soft Servo and I ended up doing was we decided, it would be really funny if we took some of these short stories and made really crappy puppet skits of them. And he thought that was a good idea. At the end of, or when the pandemic first hit, we had to find a way to explain to the students, okay, this is how you get to your assignment. This is how you turn in your assignment. All that technical mumbo jumbo. And he was just going to talk about it in front of a green screen or whatever. And I told him, I suggested, wouldn't it be really funny if we had a really crappy paper bag puppet that would just represent the student? And we'd just make him out of like a sack lunch and have him talk to you. And he thought that was funny, so we made this awful looking puppet called Johnny Baghead. And I just played the puppet and had it talk to him and, just in general be a little chaos goblin because that's my energy. And so when we were deciding to make skits from... Orion sucks. Orion's a bad person. Don't worry about that. Someone who struggles with marrying speech, I sympathize so much with her fumbling. Not saying she has anything, but what she did, how do we know? Exactly. Yeah, Orion's bad. Persona non grata. Don't talk about him. I'll explain why later if chat doesn't, but he's an actual legitimately bad person. I hope he's in a better place. I hope he's doing better things, but he was legitimately not a good person. But anyway, we did the puppet thing, and we made these terrible skits of like The Sniper. By Liam O'Flaherty, and of the Cask of Amontillado and whatnot, using these terrible puppets. And Soft Servo really dug the idea. So he started looking up how to make better puppets because the paper bags crinkled and they didn't show up well and they weren't very expressive. So we learned how to make friggin' Muppets. And he actually found out how to make Muppets. And we did that. We made Muppets. We made actual Muppets of ourselves, and we did the Odyssey. And then we did, part of the Odyssey, we did the Cyclops. And then we did, hey, Nicaea Vera, yes, these are knights, these are armigers, and I'm trying to get some of the detail work done before I finally give up and just dunk them in a dip wash. But, what was I thinking? Yeah, once we started getting into that, we got a grant from a local bank because they were trying to help with educational stuff. And so we bought a whole bunch of stuff. We bought, like, better lighting, we bought better staging and whatnot. Oh, is it the echoed sentiment thing? Long and short of it is, Orion was kicked off the show because and this is not why he was a bad person. This part is just kind of a thing. He was unfortunately... addicted to some drugs, and it was affecting him and making him behave erratically. And he was just becoming more and more erratic on the show and off the show. And so they decided to part ways with him. And he did a bunch of scummy things outside the show. He stole money from a charity. He physically and verbally abused a partner, allegedly. Like, voicemails and everything were there. He lied constantly, and he put a very bad show for himself, like, and whatnot. And it eventually came out, or he really wanted his character to be the main character, and he actually like pulled the copyright and everything. So he owns Tiberius and the Knights of Draconia and all this stuff. And he went through this, it was kind of a weird thing, and clearly did not work out well in his favor. He was also suffering from cancer, is my understanding. And that was causing him to behave and act erratically. Yeah, the part where his character got a half... That, I know, right? And you can actually see, if you watch the part, you can actually see Travis, like, immediately perk up and then get incredibly mad. He apparently had to restrain Orion or something at a fan show because someone... And okay, this is all alleged stuff. This is things I've heard. I don't know how true it is. But at a fan show, at like a convention, someone was wearing like a shirt that had fan art of Tiberius, and Orion like screamed at them and browbeat them and was, you know, how dare you do this? This is copyrighted, blah 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 blah. And so Travis nearly beat the piss out of him then and there. But yeah, there's a lot of bad stories about him. And something that started happening as the show continued was every time someone would get something, he would have to do better. And so, like, you know, Laura had Trinket, and so he got himself a little dragon baby, and he would try and steal glory from people, like when Scanlan would do his flirtatious thing, which was his whole character, which led to Orion doing the half chub thing, and just a lot of very bad stories. Him taking the glory from other people. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Laura was getting a kill, like a big one. I think it was on Kavarn, the was it Kavarn? The Beholder? And he did something where he like interrupted her so that he could put his own little zhuzh on her arrow, which, you know, took some of the glory away from the fact that she got the killing blow. Yeah, exactly. And there's one point where he just straight up is like, okay, well then I don't go in there and help. He did a lot of things that were very confrontational. He wasted an entire episode shopping after trying to like meta the game, because obviously as a player he knows about vampires and what they do, and so he was trying to make like a holy water mister, like a thing that would turn it into a mist so that he could create clouds of holy water to deal with the Briarwoods. I don't want to turn this into a let's kick Orion while he's down show, but he was just in general very distasteful and continued to push. And so they eventually parted ways with him. And that's why he doesn't appear in... Yeah, exactly. But that's why he's no longer associated with them. And while they wish him obviously the best of luck because he was a friend, I just finished my session before I jumped on here 30 minutes ago. Yeah. I appreciate you being here, by the way. Thank you, guys. But that's kind of the Orion story, and why Orion is persona non grata for a lot of people with Critical Role, and why you can't talk about Orion on the forums. He's just got a lot of negative things to him. Okay. I have no idea what's going on in chat anymore. I have been... Fair enough, you've been honeypotted, I guess. I don't actually know. But, yeah, I'm not as big a fan of D&D as I was. And it's because I've been so sucked into the Warhammer lore that, like, playing D&D mechanically doesn't do it for me. DMing isn't as interesting for me right now. I'm just so stuck in Warhammer. And it's made it so that everything else has taken a back seat creatively for me, and that's really not a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like, oh, this is how things should be. Especially since I'm DMing a campaign that's been going on for 3 years. Yes. Who are you asking? What you asking? What white paint is that? This isn't white. This is... It's beautiful, ain't it? No, this is a light gray. Give me a second. This is Vallejo light gray. But yeah, like I said, Vallejo just makes really, really good paints. And yeah, you're right. Now that I look at it, this is going on really nicely. I'm sorry. My brain just died. It brake stalled out. No working. They done failed again. But yeah, I've been DMing a campaign for my wife and some friends for over 3 years. I feel kind of bad in that I'm not fully committed to it anymore, and I'm trying my best. Like, it's really fun. This is the campaign that I've wanted to DM for over a decade. Not necessarily this specific one, because it was starting a game that I'd never done before, and I thought would be neat to try since it was so free. And I've kind of thrown away the source book, and I'm now just doing what I want to do. But mentally, I just can't commit to it like I used to. I could spend hours planning, but I just can't do that anymore. And I don't know why, other than that I'm super obsessed with 40k right now. Okay, let's go ahead. Before I forget again, while I'm still thinking about it, hit the edges right here. Hit the edges right here. I think my next thing that I really need to worry about, and that I've been kind of putting off because of fear, is the trim. A friend of mine made a picture of my character. I'm totally in love. Isn't that the best when you get like really cool fan art of your characters? My wife is trying to do. Hey EXO, thank you for joining the Discord. It's not very active because I'm a bum, but it's definitely there for you guys to show off stuff. My wife, the artist, my wife, she does fan art and whatnot too. Ooh, new stuff. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful. Let's save that. Let's copy that link. Let's see if I can do this. Gonna go to bed? Okay, Tobacco, good to see you again. Thank you for being here, and I will do my best to have a good stream. Let's see. How do I do this? I always forget how to do this. Media source? Media source? Not a local file. No, I can never remember how to do these things. I'm gonna remove that. Yes, I want to remove media source. I don't want to accidentally remove the other thing. I'm gonna save it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna save it, and it's gonna go there, and I'm gonna do this. Okay. Downloads. Look at this. Look at this work of art. Look at that. Ain't that cool? That is a neat looking piece of art. That's a neat looking character too. Kudos on the creativity in making a neat looking character. Okay, back to the other thing. What was I doing? There we go. Back to this. Now I've got to figure out the color of the trim. Like, the gray cowling is going to get darker, and it'll be fine. But the next thing I got to figure out is what the heck am I going to color this? Is that like a, I don't know, that looks like a warm white almost a bone color? Would you guys say that that's a bone color? Because I have one that I can use. I have a pale sand that will work perfectly fine as that color. Where'd my pale sand go? That's white. That's pale sand. It's a very pute white? Pure white. You think so? I don't know, because I've never used this program before, but I don't think it's a pure white. Pure white, maybe it's a pure white that's been dirtied. Maybe that's what I need to do. Looks like a cool off-white. Okay. Is it ImpCat? Yes, this is ImpCat. That's what I was told, or that I saw before I trimmed it down. So here's what I can do, though. Since these are all various forms of white, I can take some, and I can sample them. Because the whites I have that I can use, a warm white, which is pale sand, and a straight, just base white. So I'm going to go ahead and put both of those on some leggies, and we're going to try our best. Okay, we're gonna move that back down there where it can stay out of the way, and he can not be in the way, Mom. Okay, so this is gonna be the pale sand, and obviously you're not getting a great perspective because, you know, it's going through a bit different light source. But actually, to be honest, I don't care what you guys are saying. I'm using the pale sand. The pale sand looked really, really close to what he was doing. Let's see, pale sand, pale sand, pale sand, pale sand. So that's the pale sand. Unfortunately, the white balance in here is not very good, so we're just gonna have to do our best. But that is pale sand. We're gonna go ahead and hit all that. And I think with a wash on it, that's going to be pretty darn close. But, just for the sake of comparison against the same color of the model, we're going to go ahead and do a white. Oh, that's almost too bright for my brain. That is white. This is just pure white by Vallejo standards. Off. There we go. So I don't know. Pure white, pale sand. Pure white, pale sand. What do you guys think? And remember, this is all going to get a dark wash. Actually, while I'm here, is there anything else I can do? Anything else I can work on? I think I'm going to hit the vent with a black back here because they're all going to get dry brushed with metallic anyway. Okay. Go ahead and hit in there. I actually got another commission not too long, or not too short. Friends, don't let friends use pure white as a layer paint yet. I mean, I would honestly, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit it all with pale sand anyway, and then go back over it with the pure white. But oof. I mean, it's going to end up being a dirty white simply because of the fact that it's all going to get hit with a very dirty wash. But yeah, using pure white just seems like a bad idea. I gotta say, my favorite thing about this black I'm using is it's actually a craft paint. This is just Apple Barrel craft black that my wife gave me when she needed to get rid of some of her craft paints. It's going on very matte, which I kind of love. And it seems like pigment-wise it's good enough that I don't need to worry too much about anything. I will say it is going on a little thin, though. It's okay. That'll be fine. Okay. I guess pale sand it is then, isn't it? In it. Pale sand. Over like so. And I will be honest, I was definitely suggested, it was suggested to me, don't worry too much about making it beautiful. He was like, it's only meant to be tabletop plus. You don't need to. Now obviously I'm not going to slop everything on, but he's not expecting this to be like a competition ready, parade ready piece. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it where I can. And do what I can with it. And hopefully some of this color variation won't come back to hurt me later. But like I said, it's getting a huge dip wash. Well, not really, I can't dip it in the jar. I'm going to just manually paint it on to the best of my ability. Oops. Oh, thank goodness, that hit exactly where it needed to. Okay. Let's see what I can do here. That's going to be fine. But yeah, before logging on, I actually got another commission. I was tasked with painting a Demon Prince, one of the new ones. And that person wants it to go all the way up to A grade. Gonna head off to sleep, enjoy the rest of the stream. Thank you very much. Get some sleep. It's gotta be like way too late for you right now. Have sleeps. Enjoy. Enjoy the bedtimes. But yes, I am going to get to paint a new Demon Prince from the Slaves to Darkness. I believe this person is going very Slaanesh with it. Which, I'm going to have a lot of fun painting because I love the color schemes of Slaanesh. And she recently sent me a whole bunch of details about it, and I have my work cut out for me. I think I might have undercharged the poor lady. But I also don't care because, first of all, I'm never going to paint a Demon Prince otherwise. Off 2 because chaos to read a book. Yeah, reading a book is good. Thank you for all of the informative knowledge and for joining me. Have a good rest of your day. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit that. get a second layer on that. Yep, now it's just getting all of this fine trim work. Unfortunately, this trim work is so fine that I really can't talk as much because it's distracting. So I've got to really commit my brain power to this. Otherwise, I'd be trying to hold conversation right now. There we go. Yeah, a lot of things to think about. Was not aware about how picky or how sensitive Kolinsky sable brushes were. I probably should have been, because, you know, one of the selling points is that they're natural fur or natural sable hair. So they should be treated with a little more tact and finesse than synthetic brushes. But it was good to get that confirmation from someone who could more dynamically answer my questions than a YouTube video. There we go. Okay. Can I hit that? Yeah! Man, that black is showing straight through. That's honestly okay though. It's gonna be fine. It's all gonna normalize once I get a good wash on it. Okay. So come on. I forgot how much trim was on these guys and how exacting the trim was going to be, and I'm regretting my life choices. Okay. I will say though, for a very, very light color, this thing is getting some decent coverage. I will also say though, it's almost time for me to hop off. I know that I have dinner waiting soon, and once dinner happens, that's when I turn into a pumpkin. There we go. That. What's going on there? Is that just a piece of paint? No clue. That as best you can. So if I do have one thing that I know that I need to work on, it's that I definitely try and push the speed a little too much with my painting. I've made the mistake of watching speed painting videos or sped up painting videos and seeing how fast those guys move. Even though I know in my brain that they are very clearly sped up, I want to do it that fast. And so I definitely rush through a lot of things that I probably should be a lot more deliberate with. So try not to make that same mistake if you can. I will also say that this is a mini that would have benefited from being painted in sub-assemblies. I kind of wish I had had the brains to do that. So for any other viewers that might still be here, anyone else in the audience, you guys have any interesting projects you're working on, whether it's Warhammer related or not? Any other fun things that you've got on the pipeline? I will say the one thing that makes me happiest about this hobby is, even though this is not a model I would want to paint right now, I'm having a blast painting this thing. It definitely gives a whole lot more variety compared to the things I normally paint. I'm an Imperial Fist player, and so that means I'm boring. I've also got some Custodes, I've got some Sisters. Unfortunately, being that I'm a Fist player, I decided I wanted to paint them all in the same theme. And so I've got a lot of yellow. A lot of yellow and red that I've painted through. And while it's made me pretty good at painting yellow and red, it is not made for the most diverse looking army. So this color scheme is never one I would have chosen, and not because it's a bad color scheme. I think it's a great color scheme. It's just that it's very disparate from anything I would have normally picked for my army. There we go. Okay. Now I gotta say, despite the fact that I'm kind of beating the tar out of this paintbrush, it is really, really holding up. Like I said, it's got that nice full body that's keeping in a lot of paint. And it's got a nice precise tip that I'm slowly ruining. But if I were to treat it better, I feel like this thing would be very nice for quite a while. I could be entirely wrong, I don't know. I've never used Games Workshop brushes. I will say the one thing that's already irking me though is I can clearly see it starting to form a tail or a curve at the tip, which is obviously not very good. You don't want that in your brushes unless you are really good at utilizing it. Okay. There we go. That definitely gives it a little more zhuzh. Okay. Some more paint on there. See if I can do the back without ruining everything. There we go. Hopefully, once everything's kind of washed in, some of the inconsistencies in the coat coverage will disappear. I gotta say, I am kind of impressed on how much mileage I've gotten out of this one dollop of pale sand. Because so far it has gotten me pretty far. With painting this little guy. Okay, let's see if I can do this a little better. Let's go and down. There we go. That's a little bit cleaner. And same thing here. So I saw recently, and this tickled me greatly, instructions for proper painting posture. And one of the things they mentioned is having both your feet planted firmly on the ground when you're painting, which is a bad habit of mine. I tend to curl mine under my leggies. But I just switched over, and I already feel more assertive. I wonder if it's psychosomatic. I feel like a goof. Let's see. Let's go ahead and keep that as clean as I can. That turned out pretty okay. Get some more paint on the brush. Yeah, that huge gob will be fine, I guess. There we go. Oh, those little studs. This is why you paint in sub-assemblies, ladies and gents. It is incredibly difficult to hit those spots when there are things in the way. There we go. Got that. Okay. Some more on there. And I think after I finish this bit, I'm going to hit it with another coat, and then I'm going to have to call it. It's getting close enough to dinner time that I need to stop. I mentioned that previously, and that was my mental reminder. Because I know for a fact I'm going to meander a bit, and I'm going to linger, and then it'll be 15 minutes later than I want, and then I'm going to freak out. Dinner time, yeah, it's dinner time. Like I said, school teacher, so I got off work, and then I got home, and then I said hi to my wife, talked to her for a bit, then I came down here. So, I have a specific time that I like. It just past midnight there. Yeah, that's very different. Yeah, I know. I live in Virginia on the east coast of the United States. Not quite on the coast. I'm in the mountains, in Roanoke. And so, it's about 6 o'clock here. It's actually 10 after. So, I can understand why you're tickled at the idea of me having dinner now. I mean, it could just be a friggin' cryptid, you know what I mean? All I do is I sit down here and I paint until it is time to feed. Then I go upstairs and have nuggies. Oh, man. Something I've always kind of wondered about is just like the regular everyday diets of people in other countries. I was big in watching things like the Food Network and the Travel Channel when I was a little younger. And it just obviously opened my eyes up to the fact that American food is not the only way to eat, and that for the most part American food is garbage. So, well, not really garbage. I don't want to insult different regional subcultures, but there's so many other diverse food options out there that I would never have known about had, you know, those shows not existed. But it obviously gives me a very distorted view on what other countries and other cultures eat, because you only get that highlight reel. So I'm always kind of curious as to what is the edible of choice, the edible food of choice. Let me clarify. I miss rye bread every time I visit the US. Yeah, I don't know if we have very good rye bread. I mean, probably not as good as it is where you live, but that definitely does seem like something that would be a staple that would make you miss it, right? Okay. I don't know if there's any food that I would miss if I left the United States that I couldn't get better elsewhere. Because it just feels like the United States, with the exception of like Southern fried food, which is, you know, the best thing for my heart. It seems like everything that the United States does, they've borrowed liberally from another country and they've made less good, more diluted. But I feel bad saying that. I don't want to disparage United States cuisine because there's plenty of good traditional foods that are made in different parts of the United States that are really good. But like I said, it just all feels like, yeah, this is a great traditional food. We make it so well. But it's actually from another country when we emigrated over here. And that's absolutely fair. But it just feels weird knowing that we're basically getting a Xerox of a Xerox when it comes to good food culture. Okay. What am I? Oh, okay. Go ahead. I got the green out. I can go ahead and just paint this real quick. Cajun food is chef's kiss. Yes, Cajun food is absolutely worth the trip. I am not lucky enough to have been to New Orleans and tried authentic Cajun food, but I am a fan of spice, and I have had friends who have given Cajun food. Yeah, it's just like... I am right in that part of the South where, well, I grew up in Northern Virginia, which is... You gotta go? Oh, you want to go? Once the world comes down a bit, my economy allows... Exactly. I got married a couple years ago, and we had money set aside to go on a honeymoon, and we weren't sure where, but we actually managed to set aside a decent amount of money. And, one of the places we were thinking of going was Disney World. Another place we wanted to go, we really want to go and still want to go, is Japan. Because she lived there as a child, as a baby, as a young child, when her father was in the Air Force, and I've never been, and I've always wanted to go. But, you know, COVID. That being said, it is about time for me to go. I think I just got the dinner notice from the wife. I did get the dinner notice from the wife. Yep. Cleaning up now. So that being said, I know for a fact if I try and cut it short, I'm going to start talking about a million other things just because of how my brain goes. My wife's making spaghetti. Pasta with tomato sauce and meat sauce, and Italian sausage. I like it. I'm also trying to... Actually, this is a bad food to try and lose weight to. But that's okay. I like it a lot. My wife is both Southern and Black, and that means that she knows how to put a lot of soul into food. She likes to joke that she just stops putting in spices when the ancestors tell her. And she's made food that has made people cry. It's been really good. I love my wife for a lot of reasons. Her cooking is not a primary one, but the fact that she is a good cook is incredibly nice. I'm not a bad cook myself, but she's a good cook. And one of my favorite things is she made brownies, and she makes like these double fudge pecan brownies, and they're really dense. They're always really dense, and they're always really gooey, and they're never they're never overly sweet. You know what I mean? They've got I know, right? And one thing that has happened very consistently when people have bitten into the brownies is they do that little pleasure moan of, you know, food good. And I have another friend. He's like a friend of a friend. He started coming over more recently because we all play Magic. And he's really quiet. He kind of keeps himself close to the vest with his personality. But, like, he was over one time, and I went, hey, you want a brownie? And he said, sure. So I gave him one of her brownies, and mid-bite, he just kind of goes, And I've never heard that man make that noise, or anything like that noise before. He just doesn't really show a whole lot of emotion, but apparently that got him. And that was the same thing that happened when my buddy Arthur did it. That was the same thing that happened when I had one. It was the same thing that happened when my friend Soft Servo had one. So, it is consistent. It is a constant that her brownies make you pleasure moan. That sounds so bad. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna go ahead and head off. Thank you again for joining me, guys. I really do appreciate it. I will catch you all later. I don't know really what else to say other than I'm cleaning my brushes right now. But again, thank you for joining me. I don't know if I'm going to be on tomorrow because I'm going back to picking up exercising with the Soft Servo again, and that includes boxing. So I may be online later or tomorrow. I may not, or earlier. But either way, I'll see you later, guys. Have a great rest of your evening. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me, and bye-bye.